There are moments in sports when everything happens at once, and the timing alone changes the entire conversation. That's exactly what happened this week in the WNBA. Caitlyn Clark dropped a brand new State Farm commercial that instantly went viral. And at the very same time, the league was caught pushing a misleading headline about a supposed $1 million salary offer for players in 2026. Two completely different stories arrived on the same day. One real, authentic, and well-received, and the other exposed within hours for what it really was. And when fans compared the two, the league's credibility took a much bigger hit than anyone expected. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. Caitlyn Clark appeared in a quick cameo with Jake from State Farm, just reacting to Chris Paul's retirement in a short comedic moment. She didn't need a big speech, she didn't need special effects, and she didn't even need to dominate the frame. Her natural charisma did everything for her. The clip took off on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, not because State Farm spent a fortune on a commercial, but because Caitlyn Clark's presence has become that strong. You could scroll through the reactions and see thousands of people saying the same thing. She just has it, the kind of approachable star power that makes even the smallest moment memorable. And here's the key part. People who don't watch basketball like the commercial. People who have never watched a single WNBA game shared it. People who didn't know they were watching Chris Paul's retirement video still reacted to Caitlyn Clark's cameo. That level of crossover appeal is incredibly rare, especially for a rookie player. It's the exact kind of mainstream attention the WNBA has been begging for years. And it landed effortlessly because it wasn't forced, it wasn't packaged, it wasn't dressed up, it was natural. Meanwhile, the league that desperately wants to capitalize on Clark's fame was dealing with a very different reaction. Only hours after the State Farm commercial blew up online, journalists, players, and fans started digging into the WNBA's headline-grabbing announcement about the new 2026 contract structure. The league wanted the public to believe it had finally reached the milestone people had been demanding for decades. They wanted to be the first women's sports league in America to offer a $1 million supermax salary. It was supposed to be a celebratory moment. Instead, it became one of the biggest PR disasters the league has had in years. At first, the announcement spread like wildfire. WNBA to offer players up to $1.1 million. That headline alone generated massive engagement. Even people who criticized the league admitted it sounded like progress. Even fans who don't usually pay attention to CBA details stopped and said, "Wait, $1 million? Already?" For a few hours, the WNBA had its moment. For a few hours, it felt like something historic had happened. But once the fine print came out, everything changed. Sources from inside the league told Front Office Sports that the $1.1 million number wasn't a base salary. Not even close. In fact, under the proposed system, no player in 2026 would sign a contract anywhere near that number. The actual base salary for a Supermax contract would be somewhere in a range of $800,000 to $850,000, a massive number compared to the current salary structure, but still hundreds of thousands of dollars short of the advertised $1 million offer. So where did that $1.1 million figure come from? The league took the base salary and combined it with nearly every possible bonus. Championship incentives, MVP awards, all WNBA selections, all-star appearances, and a long list of performance rewards. Only by stacking almost every single one of these achievements together could the total even approach the advertised amount. And the problem is obvious. Only one or two players each year reach that level of success. The idea that every player could hit every one of those bonuses is unrealistic. It's not a salary structure. It's a lottery disguised as a paycheck. The league tried to sell potential earnings as guaranteed income. And once players realized that, frustration spread quickly. Veteran guard Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back when asked about it. She said the announcement looked nice on paper, but questioned what would happen if the league's business stopped growing or declined even further. And that's the exact concern players have had for years. The WNBA salary cap only increases by 3% annually, regardless of how well or how poorly the league does financially. That means if revenue stalls or dips or even crashes, the league still raises a cap, which forces the numbers into a place that isn't sustainable. In 2022, players made up just 9.3% of the league's total revenue. That number is shockingly low compared to other major sports leagues. It's one of the lowest revenue-sharing percentages in professional sports. And while the WNBA often promotes the idea that salaries are growing, the truth is that most of that growth is made up of conditional bonuses that depend on the league outperforming its own expectations, something it has repeatedly failed to do. So when a league puts out a flashy headline claiming players can make more than $1 million, players immediately ask, but how much of that is guaranteed? And the answer for almost everyone in the league is not much. The WNBA has used this strategy before. Over the past few years, they repeatedly highlighted figures like top players can make up to $500,000, $600,000, or $700,000. But those figures always included bonuses, playoff incentives, revenue-sharing payouts, and player marketing agreements. The base salary itself was still far lower. For most players, more than 90%, those numbers were unreachable. Now, with Caitlyn Clark entering her prime years and becoming one of the most recognizable athletes in America, the issue becomes more pressing, not less. For the first time in years, the league has someone who can pull casual viewers, boost attendance, and generate record-breaking engagement. But instead of using this moment to build trust, the league tried to inflate a salary number for positive headlines and got exposed within hours. The reaction from fans was harsh. The reaction from players was even harsher. Things got more complicated when content creators started speaking up. Several YouTubers and sports commentators admitted publicly that covering the WNBA had actually caused them to lose subscribers. Not lose views, lose subscribers. Viewers were actively opting out. That's not speculation. That's data straight from the people who post the content. One creator explained that any time he uploaded a WNBA-related video, his daily subscriber count went into the negatives. Others claimed their retention rates plummeted whenever the WNBA was mentioned. A few even admitted that creators resorted to streaming college games illegally just to get people to stick around. That's how desperate the situation had become. This is exactly the problem Sophie Cunningham hinted at when she said, "What happens when the business stops growing?" Because that's already happening. Viewership has declined. Engagement has dropped. Even the championship game reportedly had inflated numbers. The public perception of growth doesn't match the internal reality. And instead of addressing the root issues, the league tried to distract from them by releasing a headline that looked good but fell apart when inspected. And while the WNBA tries to navigate this growing storm, Caitlyn Clark continues to rise. She doesn't need manufactured numbers. She doesn't need exaggerated promises. She doesn't need inflated metrics or PR spin. Her endorsements, her commercials, and her social media presence speak for themselves. She's outgrowing the league at a rate the WNBA cannot match. That's a dangerous situation for the league, because when your brightest star is more stable, more marketable, and more trusted in the organization she plays for, fans start asking difficult questions. How long can the league rely on Clark's presence while struggling behind the scenes? Can a player-driven boom fix structural problems the league has avoided for years? And perhaps the biggest question of all, can the WNBA truly support the kind of financial future it wants to advertise? Right now, the signs aren't promising. The players know it. The fans know it. The numbers show it. And the trust between players and the league has reached one of its most fragile points ever. A flashy headline meant to unite the league ended up dividing it even more. Meanwhile, Caitlyn Clark continues to gain fans without even trying. She releases a small commercial cameo and steals the national spotlight. She posts a single story on Instagram and gets more engagement than some WNBA teams get in a month. She has mainstream appeal that future leagues pray for, and she didn't have to force it, fake it, or inflate it. She just showed up. That's the real story here. While the WNBA scrambles to create the illusion of financial strength, Caitlyn Clark is becoming a star without needing any help from them. And if the league wants to succeed long-term, it needs to confront the uncomfortable truth this controversy just exposed. The foundation has cracks. The trust is slipping. And the league is running out of time to fix it before players, fans, and future stars decide to look elsewhere. But here's the part that makes this moment even more explosive. For the first time, fans aren't just questioning the league's decisions. They're openly calling out the leadership by name. Every time a new update comes out, you see the same comments repeating over and over again. Where's the accountability? Why are players the ones paying the price for the league's mistakes? When is the commissioner going to address this honestly? That reaction alone shows how far the trust has fallen. And Caitlyn Clark, without saying a single direct word about the situation, has become the center of that pressure. She didn't ask to be the spokesperson for league integrity. She didn't position herself as the moral compass of the WNBA. But because she's the most visible, most marketable, and most widely recognized player in the league, her silence has power. Her reactions, even the small ones, carry weight, and fans are interpreting every move she makes as a message to the league. When she reposted the State Farm commercial, it wasn't meant to be a warning shot, but fans treated it like one. It was a reminder that she has the ability to build a global brand with or without the WNBA's help. Her influence doesn't begin and end with the league. She has options other players don't. She has leverage the league can't control. And when a superstar has more cultural currency than the organization itself, that's when things get dangerous. Behind the scenes, you can almost feel the tension building. Agents are watching the league's moves closely. Sponsors are noticing the backlash. Networks are paying attention to how fans react to the league's numbers versus Caitlyn Clark's numbers. And players, especially young players, are asking themselves what kind of future this league can realistically offer. If the WNBA can't maintain trust during a contract negotiation, what happens during a lockout? During expansion? During a scandal? These questions don't go away. They grow louder. This entire situation has also highlighted something the league desperately wanted to avoid. The public now understands how dependent the WNBA is on its young stars. Angel Reese brings an entirely different audience. Caitlyn Clark brings a massive crossover audience. And together, they represent the two biggest fan pipelines the WNBA has had in 2 decades. But instead of building a stable foundation to support those stars, the league rushed out a headline that wasn't ready, hoping the numbers alone would convince people that the future was brighter than it actually is. Caitlyn Clark didn't attack the league. She didn't criticize anyone. She didn't post a single negative thing. But her rising popularity created a spotlight the league was not prepared to stand under. And when that spotlight hit, everything the WNBA had been trying to gloss over suddenly became visible. From declining viewership to weak infrastructure to financial instability to players who feel undervalued and ignored. This was supposed to be the moment the league took a step forward. Instead, it revealed how far it still has to go. And whether the league wants to admit it or not, Caitlyn Clark now holds more influence over the future of women's basketball than any executive, any owner, and honestly, any policy they try to push. Her presence is the biggest opportunity the WNBA has had in decades. But if the league keeps making mistakes like this, that opportunity could easily become the biggest threat they've ever faced. So now the question is simple. Will the league step up and start being transparent? Or will it continue relying on inflated numbers and misleading announcements, hoping the public doesn't look too closely? Because that strategy clearly just backfired, and players won't forget it. Let me know what you think. Do you believe the league is being honest about its future? Should players trust this new 2026 proposal? And what does Caitlyn Clark's rising influence mean for the WNBA's next chapter? Drop your thought below. Subscribe for more courtside drama, and I'll see you in the next video.